the Bears the victory after the Bears decided not to run another play to try to get any closer. If they gotten a little closer, they might have gotten that field goal because their kicker tends to have a low trajectory on his kicks, and that one was blocked. And then week 12, the Vikings, they lost 30-27 despite a furious fourth quarter rally. And then Thursday night, and Thursday afternoon actually, they lost to the Lions 23-20. And that loss ended when Bears wasted their 32 seconds with Williams taking too much time to call a play and it took too long with a long pass there. By the time the ball hit the ground, 0-0-0 on the clock. So Eberflus plays with his job. Should have called a timeout. He's got a rookie quarterback out there. I don't blame Williams for that. I mean, he hadn't been in many situations like this. It's up to the head coach to step up and make the right call, and he didn't do it.
Well, we'll get into that decision right after this, but, speaking about Matt Eberflus, he should have been fired last year, and everybody knew it. Once the Justin Fields experiment went, so should Matt Eberflus. I mean, he wasn't a good head coach. He was a defensive-minded head coach, and we see sometimes that it works, although C.J. Stroud with DeMeco Ryans, I think C.J. Stroud is a good quarterback, and DeMeco Ryans is a good head coach so far, but C.J. Stroud looks to be in a sophomore slump, and maybe an offensive-minded head coach would be better for C.J. Stroud. Because we just see his massive regression from his rookie year to now. And with Justin Fields, he needed a lot of work. Arthur Smith kind of made Justin Fields work so far. There were some issues that happened early in the year. Justin Fields didn't quite have a nice touch on some of the deep throws, but he was able to be an effective quarterback, lead the Steelers to a 4-2 record. So we could say safely, I think, that Justin Fields isn't a complete bust. Is he a good quarterback? Kind of. He has his moments. Is he consistently good? No. But when it comes to Matt Eberflus, though, he was a bad head coach. Defensively, and this is the thing, defensively, the Bears were one of the worst defensive teams for the past couple of years, and yes, they had one half of last year where their defense was very, very good. But overall, though, the Bears' defense hasn't been very good this year. The defense hasn't been great. It's nowhere near what it was in the second half of the season. And it could have been much better. I mean, the Lions had an opportunity to blow the game right away from the get-go if Jahmyr Gibbs didn't fumble. And then Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson just took Jahmyr Gibbs completely out of the game plan. He had 9.7 yards a carry, and I don't think he was even, seen in the second half, or he was very limited in the second half. So the Lions had opportunities to put this game away, but I'll give props to Caleb Williams in the second half for bouncing back. You go 5-15. The offense is slow. The offense is getting completely dominated by the Detroit defense, even though Detroit defenders were dropping like wildflies just all over the place. I would say that it was nice to see Caleb Williams bounce back, but Eberflus needed to go. It looked like the locker room was giving out on him, especially earlier in the year. Shane Waldron as the OC was a horrible pickup. We could say that safely now. JSN over at the Seahawks even was surprised that Shane Waldron would go over there, and he kind of knew, based on if you see him on Radio Row, he knew that it might be a complete failure. But he had to go. Defensively, he's defensive head coach. Defense wasn't great. The rookie quarterback was falling apart. He was kind of regressing in the season. He's 4-8. And then we also see the past couple games against the Commanders. You don't think it was important that Jaden Daniels gained yardage, and yet he threw a 65-yard Hail Mary pass. Would you rather take an 80-yard throw or a 65-yard throw? I'd rather take the 80-yard throw if I'm the opposition. And then also against the Packers, he decided to kick a field goal on third down instead of helping your kicker getting a little bit more yardage to get an easier kick. Like, these are bad decisions. So it seemed like the locker room was completely giving up on him. Yeah. Players, I think, were giving up on him. We saw DJ Moore a couple games ago just quit on a play and just walk out of bounds. I mean, it was not a good culture. Some moves needed to be made. You already fired the OC. The head coach needed to go, especially after this game.
Well, Eberflus, he tried to defend the clock management. He said he was trying to save the final timeout to set up a potential game-tying field goal after running the final play. Well, run the final play, man. You had 32 seconds. You let it all burn away by watching Caleb Williams pounding his head and looking around, and that took about 10 seconds. And then he before he snapped the ball, he waited about 8 seconds there, and then finally got it, and he throws this rainbow pass, which runs the clock out. He said, I like what we did there. That's Eberflus's comment. He said, once it's under 7 seconds, you're going to call a timeout. Well, he didn't do that. They waited till 6 seconds to snap the ball, and then they didn't call a timeout then. They're going to call a timeout, actually, under 12 seconds. And then you don't have an opening because it will be fourth down. You have to throw it into the end zone. I'm not sure what that means, actually. He said, I think we handled it the right way. You re-rack the play, get it inbounds, and call a timeout. And that's why we had it, and that's what we had, and it didn't work out that way and the way we wanted it to. That's true. You let the clock run out. And then you didn't even challenge it. I mean, it was somewhat close. You could have at least challenged it to see. I mean, you're the head coach, man. You just walked off the field. I did say he was not fully engaged here. In one score games, Eberflus.
We'll replay it, but the clock ran out when the ball was in the air.
No, but still, I still think he should have challenged it.
Well, you can't challenge it. It's within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You got to force the rest to be like, look at it. But even then, I don't think they would.
Eberflus 5-19 in one score games, 14-32 record.
That's bad.
He's got the 309% winning percentage, the third worst in Bears history. And first coach to be fired in midseason. So he's set a bunch of records there.
In the Bears franchise history. They're one of the oldest franchises in the NFL.
In the NFL.
They've never fired a coach midseason, and they just did.
Despite the 10-24 record, he was rehired because of his leadership and stability, which is crazy.
Leadership and stability.
That's what they said.
They're on a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah, but leadership and stability. The stability, I think, is questionable given he fired 8 coaches in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So that doesn't speak very highly for stability. Previously, he was the defensive coordinator, as you said, for the Colts. The Colts had a top 10 defense 3 times when he was there, and lowest points allowed. So he is a good defensive guy, I guess. The Bears were 6-11 in 2021 before he joined. Missed the postseason 12 of the past 14 years. With Eberflus calling the defensive plays in 2023, the defense was one of the best, and their record was 7-10. They were number 1 in run defense, 12th in total yards, tied for first with the 49ers with 22 interceptions. The 6-game losing streak started. Since that started, the defense has really been pretty poor.
They haven't given
allowed,
up less than 328 yards during this.
The rushing yards allowed per carry, they're 30th. Yards allowed per game, 31st. Explosive plays allowed per game, 30th. Opponent total quarterback rating, 26. So, they've been playing lousy. It was time for him to go. It was late. They should have got rid of him last year.
And I find it shocking how this defense, before this. The first 6 games, they allowed 300 yards 3 times. On this 6-game losing streak, they haven't allowed less than 328, and they've given up 400 yards 3 times. So the defense is stopping really nobody. Caleb Williams, as of late, has been playing better, but still not great. I would still put Jaden Daniels, although he's my number 2 right now, and Bo Nix is the rookie of the year, in my opinion. He's just playing lights out. But you know what? Let's talk about that play because I think this is interesting. We have different perspectives on it. So the late game blunder by the Chicago Bears was this final play. I'm going to play the full sequence. So Caleb Williams gets sacked. You can't take a sack there. You need to help out your kicker. And what happens? They're cheering. Caleb Williams is going, let's run a play. Let's figure something out. And 24, so you know what he's doing?
23.
He's calling everybody, get 22, back here already. And he's 21, calling out a play. He's trying to do a play. And 19, he keeps doing it.
18.
He keeps doing it.
17.
He's
16,
not snapping.
15,
he lines up.
14.
And then he's waiting.
13, 12,
and waiting.
11.
And waiting.
10.
And waiting.
9.
And waiting.
8.
And waiting.
7.
And waiting.
6.
And then it's finally snapped.
4.
And this is a This is your call
2.
right here.
1.
0. The ball hit the ground at 0 anyway.
Yeah.
But that was the final sequence. And it was a complete mess. One timeout, you could have called it. Now, here's the big question. Who is more to blame? Matt Eberflus or Caleb Williams?
I blame Eberflus. And he took the blame. He said, I didn't do a good enough job communicating on the previous play, that he was planning to go for it on 4th down. I don't know what that means. Was he going for it, or the field goal, or was he planning to go for it? He was way back there.
I think he was playing for the win.
He's going to play for the win?
If he's going for it on 4th down, that's what it means to me.
Yeah, well, they're way back there. I mean, they have no chance of getting that at really. I mean, very small percentage. Go for the tie and get the overtime. They started their final possession on the 1-yard line, which I actually give Caleb Williams quite a bit of credit in this game, and he has been playing a lot better. Even during these losses, he's thrown like 232 passes, I think, without an interception. That's the best for a rookie in NFL history. And the last 2 games, he's thrown 5 TDs. He hasn't had any interceptions, so he's been playing okay. I mean, for a rookie. I mean, he was put in a situation here where he's not had much experience. And, I think that starting on the 1-yard line, getting in position where they could have kicked the field goal, and then, letting the clock run out, that's on Eberflus to me. Eberflus said, this is the NFL. I know where it is. He says, I'm just going to put my best foot forward and keep grinding. Well, sorry, you're out of a job.
Well, I'm blaming Caleb Williams because he was in a similar situation already on that drive. And I hope I have the clip queued up. Here it is. There's 3 seconds left on the play clock, and he calls timeout. He got the call 15 seconds on the play clock. And you know what he does? He calls a timeout. And so what does he do on this one? And by the way, look at this. I highlighted. Look at Matt Eberflus. He's telling Caleb Williams, hurry it up. Let's go. Let's go. Hurry it up here. Call the damn play. And then he finally calls it. And then he throws it to Romo Dunze, which that was bad ball tracking. So if you're telling me your head coach is telling you to hurry the hell up, and you're waiting there and waiting, everybody's set, and I think what he was trying to do is read the defensive coverage. Yeah. But he took so long. He tried to survey the entire field and then come back and then snap it. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. So if Caleb Williams has the awareness when the play clock's down, getting the call. By the way, he got the call on that play. I'll play one more time. On this one, he got the play call on the play clock was 15 seconds, and he was able to call a timeout before he gets a delay of game. On that exact same drive, I believe. So he has the awareness to do that. So you don't think he has the awareness to call a timeout if he sees the game clocks running down? I can't put that on the head coach. Yeah. And by the way, Caleb Williams said in a press conference, and this is a direct quote, I don't have a microphone to speak to the coach or anything like that. There wasn't any huge communication in that situation. You get a call with that time, you got to try to get the guys back and everybody lined up so you can run a play, which they were. I continue. We got lined up, got the play, and I made the adjustment because I saw the clock running down, knowing that if we complete a ball inbounds or anything like that, we won't have time to kick a field goal or anything like that. So I made an adjustment. I knew Rome either was going to be a one-on-one or he was going to beat the safety and be one-on-one there. I tried to give him a shot. We got the shot and missed. So he could have called timeout as well. The head coach isn't the only one to call a timeout.
No, that's true.
And they were also out of field goal range because Caleb Williams took a sack.
My point, Nate, is that Caleb Williams is a rookie.
And
the coach has to watch out for him a little bit.
He's the best prospect since Mahomes.
The head coach is the leader of the team. He's the one that makes the final decisions on these things. He could have called a timeout.
Did Eberflus call a timeout here?
No, but it happens all the time.
I know, but did Eberflus call a timeout here? Caleb Williams did. Look at the left side of your screen.
Okay, well.
2 seconds, he calls timeout. So, no, yes, the head coach could call timeout.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chiefs.
It happens all the time. The head coach calls timeout a lot in some of these games when he sees the clock running down. I've seen it many times where the head coach comes in and calls a timeout.
So
that's what Eberflus should have done there. He should have looked at the clock and said, hey, you know what? It's 6 seconds. I'm calling the timeout.
He trusted his quarterback. Because Caleb Williams started to call a play directly after he got sacked.
That was a mistake.
But is that on Eberflus to trust your rookie quarterback?
I think given the situation, they could have tied the game with a field goal.
Correct.
that they should have put it in the field goal kicker's hands.
But they were out of field goal range because Caleb Williams took that sack. They were about 3-4 yards off.
They still should have tried to kick it when the clock got down to 6 seconds.
Well, at that point, you should have called timeout.
He should have either called a timeout or thrown the ball into the ground to stop the clock.
That also would have been a perfectly fine idea. Instead of calling a play, spike the ball. You had 30 seconds.
It would have been 4th down at that point.
Right, it would have been 4th down. You wouldn't have an opportunity to gain more yardage, which is kind of crazy because of that Commanders game and the Packers game. You didn't care that the other team was gaining yardage before the Hail Mary, and then you didn't bother gaining yardage for your own kicker.
That's why Eberflus said
and this time you wanted to do that. Your quarterback decided to do something weird.
He's asleep at the switch, and when the game's at the most important situations, he makes mistakes. You saw he's 5-19 in one-score games. The guy is not a head coach. He's gone. He should have been gone at the end of last year.
And I think everybody was expecting him to be fired, and when he wasn't, and then he signed Shane Waldron, was like, this is maybe not the best move, and that turned out to be the case. But for me, I mean, what am I supposed to? Oh yeah, no, I can't blame Caleb Williams for anything because he's a rookie. Is that how you want me to approach this? Be like, well, he's a rookie. I got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
No, not anything. But
his comp is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, well, that's the.
If that's the standard you're setting, that he's supposed to be Mahomes 2.0.
Well, that's the comp. That's the comp that the media's put on him. That's not my comp I put on him. He's a rookie.
Okay, so who'd you compare him to? Himself?
Yeah, I mean, to compare him to anybody until he has a year or two under his belt. Then you can start comparing him to somebody. I don't think it's fair to compare him to anybody right now. I wouldn't compare a rookie to anyone.
That's fair. And even when we did quarterback rankings way back when, you said rookies are, we're abstaining rookies. They can't be part of this list.
They had them ranked. They had some of the rookies ranked up in like the top 20.
Every rookie was above Bryce Young and Daniel
before
Jones.
they even played a game. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, it's projecting, I think. That's what they were thinking. Because
how do they project based on what? The guy hadn't even taken a snap in the NFL.
Based on what you saw in college. That's what they're projecting.
Well, college is very different. I don't think that's appropriate.
That's a fair point. But in this game, I mean, yes, you could say Eberflus could have called a timeout.
He could have, yeah, and he should have.
Also, Caleb Williams could have called a timeout.
He could have done it, but he didn't. And
right,
that's where the head coach should step in and say, hey, wait a minute, guys. We're taking a timeout. We'll try the field goal from this distance and see if we make it to tie the game. If we don't, game over.
I think this is a fitting, with the way the season's panned out, this was a fitting end to
Eberflus,
Eberflus and also to the Bears' playoff chance. Now, technically, they're not eliminated, but with the Packers playing as well as they are, with the Vikings playing as well as they are, and the Lions, obviously. I'm actually very concerned about the Lions' play. They let the Bears right back into this game.
Yeah.
So maybe the Lions take a little bit of a step back, especially with the way that the Chiefs just got another victory, which is what we're talking about. This game ended about half an hour ago. The Chiefs were able to get a victory over the Las Vegas Raiders on a botched snap, which led to a fumble, which ended up in the Chiefs' hands. Then there was a penalty. It was an illegal shift, although as soon as the flag came in, the top referee on the screen said that it was a false start, which would have negated the fumble. It was a complete mess, but the Chiefs are able to escape with another victory, this time over the Las Vegas Raiders. They only win by 2 points. I believe this is their 8th win, I'm pretty sure, of one score. So it's impressive that they're able to win this game, but I want to know, what was your reaction to the Chiefs' narrow victory over the Las Vegas Raiders?
They are the luckiest team in NFL history.
Thank you.
That would be my reaction. How many more games are they going to win like this when they play like crap? I mean, they didn't play well. You look at what they were able to do in the first quarter. They had a field goal. That was the only score in the first quarter. In the second quarter, the Raiders got a field goal. The Chiefs got a touchdown near the end of the first half, a 6-yarder to Justin Watson. And then in the third quarter, the Kansas City got another field goal, 42 yards, and they got another one for 35 yards, and the Raiders got a touchdown. And then the fourth quarter, the Raiders got a TD, 5 yards to Tucker, and then the Kansas City scored another field goal, 32 yards. No touchdowns at all in the second half of Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, 26 of 46, 306 yards, 1 TD. I guess you could say that's not such a bad performance. He didn't have any interceptions, but he only had 1 touchdown. O'Connell actually outplayed him, 23 of 35, 340 yards, 2 TDs. So the Chiefs, I don't get it. I mean, they are so lucky. They've won so many one-score games where the other team has handed them the game at the end. The way this game ended, I get Antonio Pierce has got to be fuming. The way the center snapped the ball to O'Connell before he even went for it, he didn't even see it coming. It bounced off his shoulder. Then he tried to recover it, and the other player kicked it, so he couldn't get it. And then a Chief fell on it, and then there was a penalty, and the Chiefs wound up declining the penalty, and they wound up getting the ball with 1 second left, and that's it. Well, it's a crazy ending to a game. It's so anticlimactic and boring. Actually, it's like, how could you make so many mistakes? They had another chance to tie it with a field goal. The kicker missed it,
and so that was what's bizarre. Antonio Pierce sent the punt team out originally, then called a timeout, then sent the kicker out with a 91% chance to miss the field goal, which he did after missing a few others earlier on in the game. Carlson couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. He was missing all over the place. And yet your defense did hold up very well. And you had an opportunity. Aiden O'Connell made some phenomenal throws. There was a back shoulder throw to Jacoby Myers earlier in the game in kind of triple coverage. There were 3 or 4 Chiefs around in the area. Jacoby Myers came back on the pass, and it was a beautiful throw, beautiful catch. And then in this drive, the final drive, I mean, he looked like Tom Brady just tearing up the defense.
Yeah, I mean, they went right down the field.
Yeah.
It was like, I couldn't believe it. They were in field goal range.
Where was that the rest of the game?
Yeah, I know. Suddenly, they just moved the ball right down the field.
I think they were they were on the 8 or 9 yard line, maybe even closer to their own end zone. But Aiden O'Connell did a phenomenal job. Yeah. Brock Bowers also had a phenomenal one-hand catch in this game. And so I think when it comes down to it, again, this is another example of how the Chiefs just get very unlucky. Very lucky, excuse me.
What are you talking about? Very unlucky?
No, very lucky, excuse me. Because your rookie center snapped the ball when everybody wasn't expecting it. Everybody was still getting to the line. Nobody was ready for it.
I don't know what he was
thinking. And then
they
snap it, and then a Chief falls on it. Now, they did a phenomenal job stopping Mahomes. I think they had 5 sacks on Mahomes in this game, so the offensive line for the Chiefs, we already know. Their 2 tackles are terrible. 5 sacks, he lost 40 yards, he had an 84 passer rating. Aiden O'Connell, on the other hand, 23 or 35 for 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and here's the big one, 0 interceptions. O'Connell played a tremendous game against a pretty decent, at least that's what we think, Chiefs team. Mm-hmm. But recently, this is now the 2nd straight week where the Chiefs have really struggled against very inferior teams. They were this close to losing to Carolina.
Panthers. Yeah.
Mahomes needed to run 30 yards to set up a field goal.
Their luck is going to run out. I predict it. I think that their luck will. They're going to have the first seed in the playoffs. I picked it in the last show. I said that they would wind up with the first. Bye, and with a 15-2 record, and I thought they'd probably lose the last game of the season because they have nothing to play for. But once they get in the playoffs, man, you're not going to get these kinds of mistakes that other teams make. You're going to be playing some good teams, and they're going to know what they're doing, and they're going to be planning for you. And I think the chances of the Chiefs getting to the Super Bowl this time, I don't like it so much the way they've been playing lately.
Well, I think that it just takes one team to play as safe as possible. Josh Allen did that beautifully. He didn't throw it on a 4th and 2. He's 6'5", 240. He ran the damn ball. He took it himself, head down, and charged through and scored the game-winning touchdown. The Bills' defense did a tremendous job taking the ball away from the Chiefs, and the Raiders' defense didn't take the ball away, but they made Mahomes very uncomfortable.
5 sacks.
5 sacks, a loss of 40 yards on those sacks, and I'm looking at the pressures right now. They pressured Mahomes 23 times and hurried him 15 times.
Yeah.
Mahomes, passer rating wise, is one of the lowest passer ratings when pressured. And normally, if you could contain him, because he likes to roll out and get those back-breaking and soul-crushing rushes like he did against the Panthers, like he did in several playoff games last year. If you can contain him, which you can do now because their 2 tackles are terrible. They did pick up one, but he's not there quite yet. But as of right now, their 2 tackles are terrible. Juwan Taylor, he's always getting illegal formations or false starts. You just got to look at him. He always jumps early or he's always lined up way too far behind the center.
He still doesn't seem to be on the same page with Worthy either.
No.
I mean, Worthy gets open and he overthrows it.
Well, yeah, there was that 4th down play where Worthy was open.
Yeah.
Just completely missed him.
Missed him.
There was one, I think, on the sideline as well. Just missed him.
The other thing I would say is Antonio Pierce. I don't think he's done a very good job this year, personally. I look at
they're 2-10, so yeah,
they're 2-10.
Yeah.
He called out the players in one of the games, saying that they were playing for business, making business decisions out on the field. He shouldn't. He can say that in the locker room, but not to the press. That was bad. And then they wound up getting on the wrong side of Devontae Adams, and he wound up being traded. He brought in Gardner Minshew, who has played terrible this year. Let him play so many games, benched him, brought him back in, benched him, brought him back in, benched him, brought him back in. Then you have O'Connell, who played well at the end of last year after they benched Garoppolo, and he was a rookie and he played reasonably well. You gotta give that guy a chance. And look how he played today. I don't, he did hurt his thumb. He was brought in and he hurt his thumb and he was out for a while. So now he's back in. Let him play the rest of the year. Put Gardner Minshew on a train to somewhere else because he plays
he's
terrible.
Out for the year. He's out for the year.
Well, he was playing there not too long ago, and the last game, and now he's out. So good. I'd say O'Connell should finish the season. See what he's got. He showed promise. Look how he played today. So give him a chance. You gotta. I don't know where. I don't think Antonio Pierce has done very well this year.
Well, I could agree with that because his defense, right? That was the big thing. He's going to be a very physical defensive coach, and his defense currently ranks 30th in points allowed and 14th in total defense. And yes, they had one great victory over the Baltimore Ravens and a close victory over Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. But they got blown out by Denver on a late quarterback issue. Desmond Ridder was their backup. Got blown out by Miami. Blown out by the Bengals. Again, close victory, close loss against the Chiefs. Blown out by the Steelers. Blown out by Denver again. Blown out by the Chargers. They got blown out by the Carolina Panthers. Like you can't do it. Yes, and by the way,
yeah, that's a head coaching issue. When 1 week you almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the best teams in the NFL. Other weeks you get blown out by teams that have no business even being out on the field.
Yeah,
I mean it's really crazy. I mean the second week of the season they beat Baltimore.
Yes,
right. It looked like they had something going there, and then they fell apart. I That's on the coaching staff.
Well, here's one thing, and I'm not going to be like, well, Zamir, what? I mean, we were told that this team is a playoff team, that they could be at least above a 500 team and make the playoffs. That Zamir White and Abdullah would be perfectly fine. Alexander Madison would be perfectly fine running game. Quick check, they're dead last in running.
Huh.
The defense with Max Crosby going to be very, very dominant. Defensive backs, very underrated. Dead last in takeaways. Dead last in fumbles recovered. And by the way, they've also given up the most turnovers and had the most fumbles lost in the NFL.
Yeah, well, you're not going to win if you haven't got consistently decent quarterback play, at least game management. And that's where Antonio Pierce has blown it, by switching the quarterbacks in and out, in and out, in and out. And sticking with Gardner Minshew, who's having a terrible season. You should have stuck with O'Connell. I mean, he's the young guy. He played well at the end of last year. Give him a chance. It's sometimes these guys, it takes them a little while to get their sea legs and start to perform well. And O'Connell played very well today. He should play the rest of the season.
I think he will, because the only way he wouldn't is if he either gets hurt or loses his job to Desmond Ridder.
Well,
I don't see Aiden O'Connell losing his job to Desmond Ridder.
That's for sure.
I completely agree with you, but you know what? It's an unfortunate situation. Do I think that Antonio Pierce will be fired after this year? No, I don't.
No, I don't.
I think that the players appreciate him too much. They fought for him to get this head coaching job,
even though he said they're playing for business.
Well, that was this year, last year, because he was the interim head coach and did a decent job
out on the field.
Well, everybody knew Davante Adams was probably going to be gone because if you look at the Netflix receiver series, Davante Adams was going to force his way out of Las Vegas last year if Garoppolo remained the starter. So to me, him leaving this year wasn't a big shock. But again, this is the second time the Raiders almost beat the Chiefs. Last time, they only lost by 7 points. This time, they only lose by 2 on a rookie center botching a snap.
Nobody loses to the Chiefs by very much.
Yeah.
They're lucky. They're the luckiest team in the history of the NFL this season to only have one loss with the way they played and the way Mahomes has played. His ranking, where is he? He's not even in the top 15, is he?
Well, you have him at 9 in your top 10 list. You have Mahomes at 9.
Yeah.
And that's due to your algorithm and your methodology.
Yeah, right. True. But the way where is he ranked in the QBR right now? I don't think he's up in the top.
I'll bring up the number in a second. But I do want to add some context to these wins. Why don't we do that? Week 1. Lamar Jackson decides to sail a ball towards Isaiah Likely instead of gunning it to him in the left corner of the end zone, which would have been a touchdown. And then it got followed up by him throwing it in between 2 receivers. That was one. And then Isaiah Likely being out by a toe in the end zone.
Yeah.
The Bengals lost by 1 on a 4th down defensive pass interference call on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Falcons, you win by 5 points after the Falcons had a terrible start to the season. The Chargers, you only beat them by 7, but Mahomes injures Rashee Rice. He'll probably be out for the year. New Orleans Saints, they were just frauds. You beat them by 13 points. I guess that's a good win. 49ers, Purdy throw 3 picks in Kansas City territory. The Raiders, the first time, you only won by 7 points. The Buccaneers, it took you to overtime to beat a team without its top 2 receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. The Broncos, you won by the first time in 21 years as far as the data goes back, where a team driving and kicks a field goal within the 40-yard line when the clock expires, the first time in 21 years for that to have happened. The Buffalo Bills game, Josh Allen played a great game. He played perfectly, and the Bills defense was able to capitalize on your soft offense, and you ended up losing by 9 points. It wasn't a close loss. It wasn't a narrow victory at all. You lost by 9. And then against the Panthers, it took you a 30-yard scramble late to finally put them out by a field goal. And in this game, it took a rookie center to a botched snap for you to beat them. Like these are not convincing victories.
Not at all.
And you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the 2022 Minnesota Vikings, where they won 11 one-score games.
Yeah.
What happened the first game in the playoffs?
They lost.
They lost
to the Giants.
to Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, and they didn't even look good doing it.
And now Daniel Jones was playing for the Vikings.
Now, obviously, Mahomes is better than Kirk Cousins, and this team has more pieces, I think, overall than that Vikings team did. But it's still the same premise. Playoff games will come down to the 7 best teams in each conference. And if you're the 1 seed, guess what? You skip over the fraudulent teams anyway. That wild card round is filled with fraudulence and barely people getting into the playoffs. Then you're going to play legitimate playoff contenders, which probably boils down to, if we look at the seeding right now, you would either play Buffalo, as of right now, Buffalo, Baltimore, the Chargers, Denver, or Baltimore. Those are the 3 teams you could potentially play against. I think there's an opportunity for you to lose to all 3 of those teams.
I do too.
Baltimore, I think, will give you a run for your money, although with Lamar's playoff history, and have this, I won't even include the Baltimore Ravens playoff history if people want to get uptight about me calling out Lamar for his poor performances. The Ravens playoff history. Denver has a rookie quarterback, but outplayed you already. And then the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins' health. He is a primary piece of that offense. And the fact that Ladd McConkey is their best target, and he's actually statistically worse than T. Higgins, who's a wide receiver too. So they just don't have the talent, but their defense is really, really good. So there's an opportunity for the Chargers in their first playoff game to get dropped by a wild card team because they do not look good. And here's the crazy thing. What if they somehow pull out the Super Bowl this year and win 3 straight?
I'll be shocked now.
I mean, everybody would be.
I don't think. I personally don't think it's going to happen now. The way you see them play. I mean, I generally pick them, and I've been right on the wins, but the point spread, I get it wrong every week with them.
Well, fortunately, we both picked 13.5 for the Raiders to cover.
Yeah.
Although I will say you did flip from earlier this week. You said the Chiefs would blow them out, but your picks were in today. You had the Raiders plus 13.5, so I do give you that win.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I mean, I said this for several weeks. When is it going to run out? It ran out against the Bills, and you're playing bad teams. I think that's partially what it is. The Chiefs have just played bad football teams. The Panthers,
they've actually had a pretty easy schedule when you look at it.
The Saints are frauds. Raiders, you played twice. The 49ers, which they're not a good team this year. Like, that's perfectly fine.
No, they got them.
They're old and injured, and Purdy, we are seeing now, he's not an elite quarterback.
I'm not so sure.
They're 5-6, I think.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm not sure Brock Purdy.
He's not an elite quarterback.
Well, he's had some very good games.
The Falcons are no good. Their defense is atrocious. Chargers don't have offensive weapons, really. The Ravens, you lost by a toe. The Bengals, it took a 4th down penalty. Like, okay, now you're going up against the Chargers next week at home. I expect the Chargers to win.
I do too.
And then you're at
I'm gonna
Browns.
Pick them.
Then home against the Texans, at Steelers, at Broncos.
They could wind up with a lot of losses here down the stretch.
Well, you have them only losing one more game.
I know, but that's before today's game. I mean, I'm playing the team that only won 2 games so far.
Yeah.
And look how close it was. In fact, you would have lost if it hadn't been for them messing up so much. They beat themselves. That's what's happened to a lot of these teams. They beat themselves. They could have beat the Chiefs. They wound up beating themselves.
Yeah. Although with Carlson missing 3 field goals.
That's ridiculous. That's what I said. They beat themselves.
I mean, if you add that, that's 9 points. It's 26-19.
Yeah, they would have won easily.
Well, even then, the Chiefs would need a touchdown to win.
Yeah, well, the Chiefs couldn't score a touchdown the second half. All they had was field goals.
Yeah, so Pacheco came back. He played pretty well, 6 yards a carry. He had 44 yards on 7 carries. He had a big long rush of 34 yards. That was literally the biggest chunk of his yardage. He only 10 yards beside that on 6 carries. So the Raiders defensively did a very good job at slowing down the Chiefs' dynamic offense. Mahomes did get 306 yards, but a lot of dink and dunk. They were able to get to him 5 times. 81 passer rating. I mean, it's not a good performance at all. The Chiefs are, once again, lucky to pull out this win. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, Eagles-Ravens. Lamar is, he only has 1 loss against NFC teams in his career. The loss was against Daniel Jones way back when. We're going to break down that game and make our prediction on who wins, as well as the rest of Week 13's picks. We'll discuss all of that right after this break.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the content.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So, the Philadelphia Eagles will face off against the Baltimore Ravens. The Eagles on a 7-game winning streak, while the Ravens just got a nice bounce-back victory against the Los Angeles Chargers, and they also hold the number 1 total offense in the NFL. Derrick Henry, a touchdown in every single game, I believe. Lamar Jackson's on an MVP tear. He's right now currently second to Josh Allen in the MVP race. The defense, though, is still close to dead last or still dead last in passing. John Harbaugh, very clutch last week. 4th down calls. They went 3 for 3 against his brother, Jim Harbaugh, so they're able to pull out that victory and bounce back. Like I said, Derrick Henry, massive upgrade to the running game, massive upgrade to the offense, and you're seeing it throughout this entire season, and it looks like the addition of Saquon Barkley, it's crazy. We were just talking about running backs being a replacement piece for a lot of teams last year with the Saquon situation. That sparked it, and now it seems like top 2 running backs in the league are the biggest X factors to enhance these offenses at the top or very close to the top of each of the conferences, in Saquon Barkley and the Eagles and Derrick Henry and the Baltimore Ravens. So I want to know, between these two teams, it's going to be a ferocious matchup. Do you think that the Ravens will stop the Eagles' 7-game winning streak and hand them their first loss in 8 games?
This is the battle of the birds. The Eagles against the Ravens. The Eagles' strengths, Barkley, and the defense. The Eagles have outgained the opponents by 180 yards per game. That's since their bye week, when they really figured things out, and their defensive wizard coach, Nick Fangio, got them playing absolutely the best defense pretty much in the NFL since then. So it's Barkley and the defense. The Ravens' strengths, Jackson and Henry. It's the offense. And their running and their defense against the run. So, I mean, my 2 takeaways here are, can Henry and Jackson overcome the Eagles' defensive strength, and can the Ravens' defense contain Barkley? If so, I say the Ravens are going to win. Lamar's 22-1 against the NFC. The Ravens are playing at home. All of the Ravens' passing defense is ranked 31st, allowing 278 yards per game. They're 24th overall in defense, allowing 356 yards per game, but they're ranked 2nd against the run. And the Eagles are allowing only 275 yards per game. My secret to this game is stop Saquon Barkley. And their defense should be able to do it, because their running defense is 2nd in the league. If they can stop Barkley, then it becomes Jalen Hurts' game to beat the Ravens. And I like those odds.
Well, I find it interesting, because if we go toe-to-toe with one team, if we go quarterbacks, I think as the quarterbacks, the way that they're playing now, I think it's close enough.
Come on.
I think it's close enough.
Lamar Jackson is head and shoulders over Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a choker.
Oh, I don't know about
He's a choker. He's a choker. He gets in the red zone. He makes mistakes. In big games, when the game is on him, when it's up to him to win, he doesn't do it. They're lucky they've got Barkley. And if Barkley can run in this game, then I think the Eagles will probably win. But if they can bottle him up and turn the game over to Hurts, that's just what the Ravens want. And if that happens, I say the Ravens win.
Okay, well, let's go down. Quarterback, you're saying Lamar blows him out of the water. So how about this? I'll give you 1 point for the Ravens. Running back, are we saying that they're even enough? I would give it to Saquon at the moment, but are you going to say they're even enough?
Derrick Henry has 1,325
Saquon has
yards,
more.
1,392. It's like not that much of a difference.
So you want to call it a split? We'll call it a split. 1 point for each team.
I'd say that's even.
So how about this? Tight ends right now.
The Ravens.
Yeah,
they have Likely and Andrews,
who haven't done much all season.
Well, Andrews had a good game this last game. He had 5 receptions, 65 yards.
I would take
touchdown.
Dallas Goedert over Mark Andrews right now. That might be preposterous to some people.
They have 2. The Ravens have 2 good tight ends. Likely is good as well. I give the Ravens that. What's your next one?
Wide receivers. There is no way you're picking the Ravens.
Wide receivers, Deontay
Johnson?
No,
Devontae Smith. Yeah, he's out for this game.
He's out for this game.
So A.J. Brown over anybody. A.J.
Brown, you can double cover him now. You don't have Devonta Smith there.
So you would give it to the Ravens.
Well, I don't give it to the Ravens, but I don't think the Eagles have the overpowering advantage there at wide receiver right now.
I can tell you why they do. Ravens can't stop anybody through the air.
Well,
it doesn't matter if they're injured or not. You'll see third-string receivers pop off because the Ravens' pass defense is so bad.
Well, it did pretty well against Justin Herbert in the last game. He didn't have a very good game.
Yeah, because they got to him. That was the
they
big
got
thing.
to him. Well, that's the thing. If they can put the pressure on Hurts.
We talked about this on Tuesday. If people are always going to complain about Lamar having, so many drops in crucial situations, then we could point to Quentin Johnston getting all these, had 3 drops, all in the fourth quarter. I think 2 of which came on the final drive. So I can't give you that, I'm not going to be a part of this crew that blames receivers or blames drops. I think Justin Herbert played a pretty poor game, and Greg Roman, as soon as J.K. Dobbins went down with an injury, the offense became completely stalled.
Yeah.
I mean, J.K. Dobbins had, I think 6.7 yards a carry, something like he had over 6 yards a carry.
He only carried the ball 6 times, so. It's 6 times,
but,
six
but we have to realize that it was a 1-point game.
It
was a 1-point game going into halftime. It wasn't a 14-13. And by the way, after they scored the touchdown, I think there was a minute left in the game. The Chargers drove right down and kicked the field goal. Otherwise, it would have been 14-10 going into halftime.
Yeah.
But they were able to leave it as a 1-point game.
Yeah.
Defensively. Cornerbacks alone.
Well,
defensive backs, Eagles.
Nate,
front 7, Eagles.
You're big on the stats, but I don't think stats tell the whole story.
Hold on, I didn't even bring up stats. I brought up personnel.
I know, but maybe the Ravens' strong run defense is because most teams have been throwing the ball because they have so much success against it, right? Or maybe it's because Baltimore's offense is so good, opponents have to pass because they are falling behind in the game. So I think that there's other factors.
Both could be true.
Yeah,
both could be true. But if you look at it right now, so the Eagles have the number 1 rush offense in the NFL. Baltimore has number 2. Baltimore is second to last in pass defense. The Eagles, on the other hand, they're third. So Lamar, if we just look at the numbers, Jalen Hurts should be much better through the air than Lamar Jackson. What about rushing defense? You just brought it up. The Ravens are second in the NFL in rush defense. Meanwhile, the Eagles, they're number 7. So both teams, both offenses technically, just based on the numbers, should be pretty pedestrian. But here's the big thing. I think that each of these teams don't even have a player that could be the massive X factor on who wins and loses. Because I think both teams have a massive discrepancy on guys who stand up on the sidelines. The Eagles have Nick Sirianni as their head coach, and the Ravens have Todd Monken as their offensive coordinator. When things go poorly early, Todd Monken loses all identity. He decides to put into Lamar Jackson's hands, has him throw it a bunch of times, and that is not the way the Ravens need to succeed. Nick Sirianni, he's just a bad head coach. He's a walk-around coach. He leaves it up to his coordinators. And if he does get involved, it normally doesn't end well. Recently, it looks like Nick Sirianni became a true walk-around guy and allowed Kellen Moore to operate the offense effectively, and Vic Fangio to deal with the defense, which has led into the 7-game winning streak. I brought this up on Tuesday. I'll bring it up again. The only way that the Ravens have found ways to succeed on massive levels is this simple checklist. Lamar has to throw it less than 30 times. Derrick Henry needs to run more than 20 times. And guess what? They're undefeated.
Well, maybe that's what they're going to do.
And even if Henry doesn't rush it 20 or more times, let's say Lamar just throws it less than 30 times. They're 6-0. Add one more win into the win column. And when he does that, Lamar Jackson wins 84% of his games. This is a guy who wins basically 75% of his games, and 84% of the wins are because of this. He throws less than 30 times. So, and by the way, he's 2-4 when he throws it more than 30 times, but both of the wins were against Cincinnati, which had big asterisks.
I predict they're going to do just what you checked off there, and they're going to win the game. Because I think if they can bottle up Barkley, then Hurts will have to carry the Eagles, which should be a big worry for the Eagles fans, based on what he's done when he's been in that situation in the past. The quarterbacks will make the one who makes the big plays and avoids the big mistakes. I think that will be the difference in this game. Both teams have, pretty dynamic quarterbacks, I think, and running backs, the top 2 running backs in the league. One thing, the Eagles do have an edge on defense. So I'm counting on the Ravens defense to stop Barkley. If they can do that, then it will be up to Hurts to pass the ball, and I think he'll throw some interceptions.
Here's my big question,
particularly in the red zone, where he's noted for doing that.
Well, that is true. And currently, Pro Football Focus does have Lamar Jackson as the number 1 graded quarterback, both throwing the football and overall, which is obviously big, although he's not ranked first in the MVP awards. Right now, the odds favor Josh Allen as the MVP favorite.
I don't know why Josh Allen is ranked
because he's playing tremendous. That's why. I think my big question mark here is, how is he going to do under pressure? Normally, Lamar Jackson likes to run well under pressure, although against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, he didn't run much. In fact, the Ravens in general, didn't run much. The running backs ran it 6 times. That's an issue. If the Eagles can generate some pressure, which they have been able to do as of late, they've done a great job at generating pressure, then I expect the Eagles to disrupt Lamar, and especially because Quinion Mitchell has done a tremendous job as a rookie. Cooper DeJean, would you believe he has one of the lowest passer ratings when targeted too? He's a lockdown defensive back. The front 7 has been much better than it has been last year. The defensive numbers for the Eagles have spiked since last year. I mean, they were dead last in essentially every single category. This year, they're first in every single category, basically. Or they're at least top 5 in every single category, essentially. So right now, the Eagles are doing a tremendous job. And here's the big thing. Jalen Hurts hasn't needed to do much.
No, that's good.
He threw for 167 yards in a win. He threw it for 70 yards in a win. He threw it for 161 yards in a win. He hasn't needed to do anything. You know why? They're running it 314 yards, 228 yards, 237 yards, 269 yards.
Mm-hmm. I said early, before this season even started, that Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles with their offensive line and their talent on offense was going to make a big difference for him, and that he was going to have a fantastic year. And guess what? I'm right.
I mean, I think writing was on the wall, to be fair. But, I'll give you, you're right. I could agree with that.
He could probably be the offensive player of the year.
I believe he is favored right now. I would need to look at, I'm pretty sure, though, he is
between him and Derrick Henry. Probably.
And I think that if we're being honest, if we look again at the most valuable player, we did this argument with Nikola Jokic a year or two ago when Gilbert Arenas came out and said his tremendously uneducated statements about Nikola Jokic. It's okay. Look at the words: most valuable player. Josh Allen, you could argue, is the most valuable player in the league, but Saquon Barkley, his impact, Derrick Henry, his impact instantly on how both of those teams are playing. Christian McCaffrey on the Niners last year.
Well, his impact hasn't done anything.
Well, I mean, the voters said that he deserved more first place votes than Brock Purdy did, and the argument was Brock Purdy deserves the MVP, not CMC. So there was an argument about that, but it is a quarterback biased award, so my guess is that a quarterback will win, although Saquon is currently 3rd to win the MVP, and Derrick Henry is far below them, all the way down to, let's see how many spots he's below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He's number 12. Saquon's number 3. So that disparity is shown in the odds. So Lamar Jackson 2, Josh Allen 1. If Lamar Jackson loses, they're 8-5. If they win out, right? And Josh Allen only loses 2 more games, how can you give it to a guy who's played kind of the same in numbers wise, but has a worse record? Generally, we don't give it. We give it to the best player on the best team. Best player on the best team.
Plays kind of the same. Guess what? He won the MVP last year.
Right.
So he played pretty well.
Yeah, you know why? Because he was the best player on the best team. That's kind of how it works. So if Josh Allen has the better record, because Mahomes right now, he's 5th. He should not be 5th.
He shouldn't be 5th.
He's not a top 10 quarterback right now. And that's crazy to say that Mahomes he's just not playing well. So in that case, you can't give that kind of criteria, best player on the best team, because Mahomes is technically the best player on the Chiefs, who have the best record. But the Bills in the AFC, they technically, I think they would be the best player, or Josh Allen would be the best player on the Bills, who in the AFC is the best team, in my opinion. So would you give Lamar the MVP even though he has a worse record and the numbers are close enough?
I don't know. It's too early to tell yet. There's still a lot of football to play. We'll see what happens down the stretch. I see the Ravens taking over first place from the Steelers before the end of the season. I think that will have a bearing on it. I see them having a very good record the rest of the way. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do think the Bills are going to continue to play well too. So it'll be interesting to see what these two players do. They've done very well so far this year. How will they do down the stretch?
And we will wait and see. But it's time. We always do this every single week throughout the NFL season. We pick every single game. This time's a little bit easier. There are no buys currently this week. So we got a full slate of games. We just had four games get played already in 2 days. Now it's time for a little break on Saturday. If you're not watching college football, a little bit of a break, and then we got a full slate of NFL games. So let's begin with my Week 13 picks. Had a decent week, not great. We did get very, very lucky though because we went 4-1 in the Harvey Hot Hand and went 6-7 in the point spread last week. So we hit on basically all the wins. 4-1, and we had a total 6-7 record against the spread. That's an inverse of what happened a couple weeks ago where I did tremendous against the spread. But my Harvey Hot Hand picks, I went 1-4, which is incredibly frustrating. But let's go. So far, I was able to pick the lines, but remember what I said on Tuesday. I said, be careful. If Terry and Arnold is not out there or plays poorly, the Bears could keep it close, which they did. They covered a 9.5 point spread. Dallas Cowboys against Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito, whoever would be out there, it ended up being Drew Lock. I thought the Cowboys would win, although it was close early on. Bad offenses both sides. Drew Lock he's not a good quarterback. And then the late game on Thanksgiving, the Packers, we said, how will Tua do in cold weather? Well, I think it's time to change the narrative a little bit because I thought Tua actually played pretty well. It's now about the Dolphins winning or trying to beat good teams. Mike McDaniel is 1-15 in his coaching career against teams with a winning record. That's an issue. But I thought that they would keep it close. Unfortunately for me, Packers blew them out of the water on that one, so I was able to actually take a big fat L on the point spread cover, but I did pick the Packers to win. And then today's game, this one was probably the easiest one. A 13.5 point spread for a team that doesn't blow out any team, really. That was an easy pick for me to pick the 13.5 for the Las Vegas Raiders, but the Chiefs get the victory. So that's 100% right there. But let's continue on to Sunday's slate of games, which is the first one, the Chargers at the Falcons. I got the Chargers here. The Falcons have played pretty well over the past couple weeks, but the Chargers, they need to bounce back. They kind of got embarrassed by the Baltimore Ravens, and normally the thinking goes, the logic says that a good team that gets blown out by an inferior team, they seek revenge the following week and win big time. So I'm taking the Chargers here on the road. Jim Harbaugh needs to bounce back. Hopefully, I know J.K. Dobbins will miss some time. Hopefully the offense doesn't stall because Greg Roman is the OC, and we remember what the Ravens look like with him as their OC, a lot of running. Will Gus Edwards be able to bring the same production as J.K. Dobbins? Probably not, so we have to hope that Justin Herbert, throwing the football a lot, will be able to keep it up and take down the Atlanta Falcons on the road. The next one, which I do have, by the way, the next one is the Colts at the Patriots. Drake May's been playing very well, but as Gerard Mayo says, or Alex Van Pelt said, the turnovers we can't have turnovers. Turnovers are a massive negative on the offense, which is obviously the case, especially with a rookie quarterback playing as reckless as Drake May has. He's played pretty well, but the turnovers are absolute killers. He's actually lost several games now due to a late game interception. The Colts, on the other hand, they played pretty decently against the Detroit Lions, being able to sort of expose Vildor, the defensive back for the Lions, expose him, target him a lot, and they found levels of success there. And I think that while the Patriots don't have a Vildor, I think their defense can get got. In zone coverage, they have an issue. If Marcus Jones is covering a decent receiver, my guess is he'll cover Alec Pierce. I expect Alec Pierce to score a 65 to 70-yard touchdown with Marcus Jones in coverage because 5'8" speed Marcus Jones is a cool little gadget guy. But covering big guys in coverage, he'll get cooked every single time. Look at Jalen Waddle last week. I'll take Anthony Richardson to get a nice victory over the New England Patriots and cover a minus 2.5 point spread on the road. The next one's the Texans at the Jaguars. CJ Stroud's in a massive, massive sophomore slump right now. Trevor Lawrence is expected to play this week, so they don't have Mac Jones, the Jaguars do this week, which I think is a massive positive for them. So I expect the Texans to come out here and look better. They're getting healthier. Nico Collins, he played 1 or 2 games already since coming back from his injury. He's obviously getting healthier. Joe Mixon, healthier. CJ Stroud, He should be much better. The offensive line is getting cooked. But fortunately, the Jaguars don't have a great pass rush. So C.J. Stroud should be able to sit back in the pocket, not be rushed, and be able to make some accurate throws and win, which I expect him to do. Win big time. I got the Texans winning and covering a -3.5 point spread. The next one's the Seahawks at the Jets. I got the Seahawks here. The Jets are a reeling team. They got players reportedly that are saying that they want the season to be over already. You have Rodgers already talking about his future again this time. It's midway through the year about how he doesn't know if he'll come back next year. Woody Johnson's already hinting at least through reports, that he doesn't want Rodgers back. The Jets, they're waving the white flag already. So the Seahawks, though, as expected last week, I don't understand how they were 1.5 underdogs. They just beat the 49ers on a nice run by Geno Smith, going up against a Cardinals team that has a very, very bad defense. And what did the defense do for the Seahawks? They completely dominated anything Kyler Murray tried to do. Led it to 6 points the Cardinals offense did. Now, the Seahawks offense wasn't great, only scored 16 points. But I think the Jets are just bad in all phases of the game. Breece Hall is trying to make his way back from injury. Like there's some massive mistakes that the Jets have made over the course of Rodgers' career there. I expect the Seahawks to step up big, take down the Jets on the road, and cover the 1.5 point spread. This next game, I don't have bet in the Harvey hot hand. I'm a little bit worried about picking the Bengals to win here because that offensive line against the Steelers' defensive front, that scares me the most. If Joe Burrow can get the ball out quickly, I think that's the only way you're going to succeed because that offensive line, I don't think will hold up very well, and the defense, I don't think will stop Najee Harris or George Pickens. They're not built to win. The defense just isn't good enough to go up against pretty decent to good teams and come out with a victory. But I'm saying that just with Joe Burrow at quarterback, I think he'll be able to step up once again and deliver in the clutch with Jamar Chase as the best receiver right now in the NFL. I'll take the Bengals to win. It'll be a close game. I do think this probably is a field goal game. Bengals win and cover a -2.5 point spread. The next was the Titans at the Commanders. Great win for the Titans last week over the Texans. Defense was okay, wasn't great. The Texans were able to put up some points, but Will Levis had a tremendous game. I think when it comes down to the Commanders, they just got embarrassed by the Dallas Cowboys. They were 10.5 point favorites, and they lost to the Cowboys team that lost its quarterback, has no run game, defense can't stop anybody, offensive line's not great, and the Commanders, through 3 quarters, Jaden Daniels looked terrible. I mean, it was the same thing that we've heard all the time is the second half of years. Cliff Kingsbury just completely craps the bed, and it seemed that way. But then all of a sudden, special teams touchdowns and Jaden Daniels' big-time throws to Terry McLaurin for like 80-yard touchdowns. It was exciting. And then special teams again, another kick return touchdown. It was a crazy game to watch. I think the Commanders, though, again, it's the same premise. If we think the Commanders are a good team or good enough, then getting embarrassed by an inferior team should mean that they win this next game. So I'll take the Commanders to win and win by a touchdown. I got them covering 6.5 point spread. The next one is the Cardinals at the Vikings. I got the Vikings here to win and cover. Big time win last week. Sam Darnold in overtime against the Bears was, I think, perfect 6 for 6 and led to a game-winning field goal. I think in this one, Cardinals have a bad defense. Run the football, run the football, run the football. Take the ball out of Kyler Murray's hands because there are some games, which this could be a trap game, where Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison just click perfectly. The offense is humming at a tremendous level. Sam Darnold could throw 3 interceptions and have Mac Jones score the only touchdown in the game, and they only win by 5 points against a Jaguars defense that's terrible. That could happen, but I think that with the way the Vikings are playing, the Lions actually showed that they could get exposed, which then generates some light at the end of the tunnel for the Vikings to claim the NFC North. Now, while I'm not picking that to happen, I think the past couple of games that the Lions have played kind of show that, where they are close. There's close games against bad teams. Like the Colts game was not a convincing victory, at least in my mind. It didn't feel good. This win against the Bears, there was a high likelihood that game goes into overtime, and there's a shot with the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs was barely even played in the second half after he fumbled, that the Bears had an opportunity to score a touchdown if they got the opening tip and able to drive down and score. So I will take the Vikings here to win, though. I just think that coaching-wise, Kevin O'Connell will figure something out. The defense might make Kyler Murray uncomfortable. I'll take the Vikings to win and cover a -3.5 point spread. Next one's the Buccaneers at the Panthers. This one's really quick for me, I would say. The Bucs just beat the crap out of Tommy DeVito. Made him feel hurt. He only got sacked 4 times, but he was very, very sore. So much so he couldn't go this past week. But I'm thinking Baker Mayfield. He got Mike Evans back. The offense put up 30 points. It was a 30-0 ball game until the Giants were able to score one touchdown. The Panthers did do a good job at getting to Mahomes, sacking him a number of times, and keeping the game close. But I think the way that Baker Mayfield's playing, if you just go quarterback to quarterback, I would say that the Buccaneers, quarterback-wise, is much better. Defensively, I would take the Bucs defense over the Panthers. I'll take the Bucs to win and cover a -5.5 point spread on the road. The next one is the Los Angeles Rams, 2.5 point favorites over the Saints. I'll take the Rams to win and cover. They got blown out by the Philadelphia Eagles last week. I think the Rams will step up big time in this game. The offense didn't look great. It looked okay. They need to play much better if they want to make a playoff push. Now, currently, the Seahawks do have the number 1 spot. But the NFC West is the most interesting division because every team is essentially tied or within a half game or one game in front or behind each other. So the Rams have an opportunity to be around 9-8 and somehow make the playoffs as a division leader, which that's a very decent likelihood if they win some of these late games. The Saints, though, they're not great. Derek Carr hasn't been playing very well. The offense isn't great. The defense also isn't tremendous. You already fired your head coach. It hasn't looked great at all. The Rams, on the other hand, they're getting healthier. They have probably, arguably, the defensive rookie of the year. Puka Nacua is healthy now. Kyron Williams is healthy. You got Cooper Kupp healthy as well. Giving the Rams to win and cover a -2.5 points, but on the road at the Saints. I just think they're the better team. We talked about this one earlier. The Eagles at the Ravens. I think that, in my mind, maybe not in some other people's minds, if you go down the list of players, don't even worry about the stats, the list of players and their talents, I would say the Eagles actually have the advantage there. And if they're the better team, I would give John Harbaugh actually the coaching nod. But if we're talking about personnel and playmakers, I would give it to the Eagles. They're on a 7-game winning streak. The Ravens have looked shaky all season. If Lamar throws it more than 30 times, which my guess will be because of the Eagles' defense, or how explosive the Eagles' offense could be if Saquon gets to a hot start early, the Todd Monken will force Lamar to throw it more, which means they're probably not going to win football games because they're 2-4 when he throws it 30 or more times this season. So, and he wins 63% of his games compared to 84% if he throws it under 30 times. So I'll take the Eagles in an upset victory here. Now, Lamar will fall, his second loss only in the NFC in his career. I think it happens this week, December 1st. So I'll take the Eagles to win and cover, obviously a +3 point spread. Sunday Night Football, 49ers at the Buffalo Bills. Give me the Bills here, and also to cover 6.5 point spread. Brock Purdy has this mysterious injury that he got an MRI for. Not really much. He started practicing essentially today. Today and yesterday he started practicing. He was a limited participant, and he was slowly getting back today in practice. But I don't think it matters. I think the way the Buffalo Bills have been playing, they're on a pretty decent win streak right now. They've been playing great complementary football, running the ball effectively. Josh Allen come up with some big-time plays. Turnovers, though, have been an issue as of late. They're turning the ball over much more in the past 4 weeks than they have been throughout the rest of the season. But I think with the injuries that the 49ers have currently, with Nick Bosa not practicing, Trent Williams, that's the big one, not practicing. I think that and Brock Purdy not being 100% healthy, that does not bode well for a 49ers team to keep this game close. We just saw what they looked like without Purdy out there. They got blown out by the Green Bay Packers, and it wasn't particularly close. Also, Fred Warner dealing with an injury. He's playing, but he's been dealing with an ankle injury. I think it's a dislocated something in his ankle. That's serious. He's had it since week 4, and that's kind of where the defense started to trail off massively. If that's the case, then I expect that the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen running the football, Davis running the football, James Cook running the football. Also a defense that's taken the ball away at least once in every single game this season. Give me the Bills to win and cover a -6.5 point spread. And finally, Monday Night Football. I'm taking the Denver Broncos in this one, but the Broncos and the Lions have both been incredible teams to watch, very exciting teams to watch, because Bo Nix, he started off terribly. I mean, throwing it into triple coverage for easy interceptions against the Seahawks, but watching him round into form since week 5, he has been one of the best intermediate and deep passers in the NFL. It has been a tremendous sight to see. I'll take Bo Nix, and this might be a little bit of a trap game for me, though, because they did narrowly beat the Las Vegas Raiders and took a Desmond Ridder sack late in the game to make them even cover a 6.5 point spread. So I'll take the Broncos to cover here. They have an offensive line, but the key for this game is if you're going to stop, you have to stop Myles Garrett. If you could slow him down and stop him and don't let him get to Bo Nix early and often, I think Bo Nix will be able to cover this game and win. Covering a -5.5 points, but on Monday Night Football. And those are my Week 13 picks.
Wow. Interesting picks you got there, Nate. I see in your record 117 and 62 straight up. I'm 114 and 65, so we're pretty close. We'll
Point
see how
spread,
it
we're
winds
also
up.
very close.
Point spread, you're
92, 86, and 1.
85 and 1. I'm 88 and 91. So it's coming down the stretch here. We'll see who's going to win.
This is the closest we've ever been point spread wise and winning record wise. So
okay, so I'm off to a good start. The first 4 games played on Thursday and today. I'm 4-0 on straight up and 3-1 in the point spread. So off to a good start. I hope I can keep it going. So the first game, the Chargers at the Falcons. I like the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to finish strong here, make the playoffs. We talked about this on Tuesday. Their power ranking continuing to go up. They're number 9 now. The Falcons at 17. The Chargers at 7-4, and the Falcons at 6-5. I just see even though the Falcons are at home, I see the Chargers pulling this one out. The Colts at the Patriots. I'm picking the Patriots here. And beating the point spread there, where the Colts are favored 2.5 points on the road. Colts 5-7, number 20 in the power rankings, and the Patriots 3-9, number 29. I like the way Drake May's played. He's got to stop turning the ball over so much. I mean, some of the turnovers just blindsided tackles. He fumbles the ball. But throwing those interceptions, you gotta stop that, Drake. If you can do that, then I think you got a real good chance to win. The Texans at the Jaguars. I think the Texans, even though, as you say, Stroud is in the sophomore slump, I think some of it has to do with the offensive line, which isn't so great. They're 7-5 and 12 in the power rankings against the Jaguars, who are last in the power rankings, and 2-9. I don't know why. The coach hasn't lost, Peterson hasn't lost his job yet, but I think that's coming. I got the Texans covering the 3.5 point spread. The Seahawks at the Jets. I like the Seahawks here. The Jets just a lost season now, 3-8. They're done. Power ranking at 26. The Seahawks won a big game against the Cardinals last week. The defense looking very good. They're at 6-5 and number 14 in the power rankings. I think Geno Smith's going to have a little revenge game here. I like the Seahawks to win. Steelers at the Bengals. The Bengals have to win. I mean, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs anyway at 4-7. They just started out way too slow, losing all those games at the beginning of the year. It just killed them. And then so many close losses, too, heartbreakers, actually. I think they find a way to beat the Steelers, and they're playing at home and cover the point spread. The Titans at Washington. I like Washington in this game, but I don't think they're going to cover the point spread. The Titans winning a game last week unexpectedly, even though they're 28th in the power rankings and a 3-8 record. The Commanders got to have this. Game. They're 11th in the power rankings and 7-5 record. They want to make the playoffs. They got to start winning some of these games. Cardinals at the Vikings. I like the Vikings. I like the Cardinals. And I like the way they've been playing. They disappointed me against the Seahawks last week, but the Seahawks defense just really smothered them. They played much better than they had been, so maybe they found something. Cardinals at 6-5, 15 in the power rankings against the Vikings, 9-2 and 6 in the power rankings. I like the Vikings to win this game, principally because they're playing at home. The Buccaneers at the Panthers. I like the Buccaneers to basically win out the season here and take over the lead from the Falcons. I think they've had some bad luck with wide receivers getting hurt, but they have Evans back now. Baker Mayfield having a great season, playing well, really a team player, and someone who's willing to take the risk, run the ball when he has to, do whatever he has to do to score points, and he's really, I think, having a very good year. They're 5-6 right now, unfortunately. They lost some close games and those injuries. But now they're getting a little bit healthier, and they can keep playing well the way Baker Mayfield's played, then I think they're going to take over from the Falcons here before the end of the year. And they're playing against the Panthers. They should be able to win this game. Panthers 3-8, 27th in the power rankings. The Rams at the Saints. The Saints having a horrible year here, 4-7, 24th in the power rankings. The Rams, as you mentioned, getting healthier. Particularly on defense, 5-6 record, 19 in the power rankings, have a shot making the playoffs in their division, where the Seahawks are leading it at 6-5. so they're only one game out. They've got a lot to play for here, and I think they find a way to win and cover. Eagles at the Ravens. We talked at length about this game. I'm taking the Ravens. They are ranked a little lower in the power rankings, 5 versus the Eagles at 3. The Eagles have been moving up every week because the way they've been playing at 9-2. They could be the best team in the NFC. We'll see, but Lamar Jackson only lost one time against an NFC team in his career at 22-1. I think he's going to continue that streak. San Francisco with the Bills. I like the Bills. I got them covering that 6.5 point spread principally because of San Francisco. They're just a shadow of what they were last year. They were in the Super Bowl last year. They were in a Super Bowl hangover, man. They played poorly this year. They've had some injuries, but they just have not played well. And I don't see them beating the Bills. The Bills playing very well, and the Bills at home. So I think the Bills will win and cover. The Browns at the Broncos, I think this will be a close game. Even though the Browns 3-8 record and 25th in the power ranking, Jameis Winston beating the Steelers last week and playing well in 3 out of his 4 games, having more than 200 yards passing in every game. He's kind of an X factor in this game. Bo Nix, I agree with you. I think he's the best rookie quarterback so far. They're 7-5 record and 10 power ranking. They need this win to make sure they stay in the playoff race. And those are my picks.
Well, I think it should be a very fascinating week just because no one's on a bye. We get to see every team play. We already saw 8 teams play, so we only got what? I don't want to count all those games.
32 minus 8 would be 24.
Thank you. So, yeah, there you go. You have 12 more teams to play. So, or 12 more games to be played. So, it is time. The Harvey Hot Hand, for those who don't know what the Harvey Hot Hand is, it's my favorite topic that we do here on the Harvey Hours, where I pick the top 5 teams and games that you should bet on for the NFL season. We did pretty well last week. 4-1. That is tied for the second best record we've ever had this season. Now, last year, I did have a 5-0 week. And you know what's crazy? I think that this week could be a 5-0 week. That's how strongly I feel about my picks this week. So let's begin with the first pick of Week 13's Harvey Hot Hand.
Buccaneers at Panthers.
So this one's interesting. I think that, look, the Panthers played great last week against the Kansas City Chiefs, lost them only by 3. The Chiefs, they're not a great team, and we can put that out there. They are not a great team. They are like the 11-0 and 1 score game Vikings. They lost in round 1 to Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. Last time I checked, Daniel Jones now on the Vikings, and the Vikings are 9-2 with Sam Darnold. So I don't love the fact that the Chiefs are this bad because I think it makes the Panthers look much better than they are. The Panthers did look a little bit better. Bryce Young has looked much better since getting benched and coming back from being benched for Andy Dalton. But the Bucs defense just tormented Tommy DeVito. And they also lost 4 straight, and they put up a 30-0 game until Tommy DeVito finally scored a touchdown, And Tommy DeVito was complaining about how hard the Bucs were hitting, and he only got sacked 4 times. Also, Carolina has the worst graded defense according to Pro Football Focus, and the Bucs have the 9th graded offense. Mike Evans is back and healthy. The running game is its best that it's ever been in several years. Baker Mayfield has played great. You have him as a top 10 quarterback. So I will take the Buccaneers to win big. That's a 5.5 point spread. I'm shocked. I thought it'd be more than a touchdown or around a touchdown. I'll take the Bucs to cover a minus 5.5 point spread and win 30-21. The next one.
Browns at Broncos.
This one, I'm loving Bo Nix. He's probably my favorite quarterback this year. He's not my number 1 quarterback overall, but he's my favorite quarterback to watch. He's been a formidable force against opposing defenses. He's a top 5 quarterback on intermediate and deep passes. The big thing in college was his average depth of target was around dead last in college football. Well, this year, since week 5, he has had one of the highest passer ratings in intermediate and deep passes. He's been a tremendous passer this season. We just saw last game against the Raiders. They started off 1-6, and then after that, they could not be stopped on 3rd down. Cortland Sutton, a massive part of those 3rd down conversions. Jameis Winston did have a great game in the snow last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think this Denver defense will step up massively. They're 11th in takeaways. Denver also has the second best offensive line in pass blocking. You know what that means? I hope, and the only way the X factor will be is to stop Myles Garrett. If the defense can make Jameis turn back into 2019 Jameis and have him turn the ball over a lot, and the second best pass blocking offensive line, can stop Myles Garrett from tormenting Bo Nix, which is obviously a bunch of rookies' kryptonite, is being under pressure. If Bo Nix, once again, he's now moved to 6-0 in games where he's pressured 30% or less on his dropbacks. If the offensive line can hold up, I'll expect Bo Nix to win and win big and cover a -5.5 points bet at home and win 24-17.
Chargers at Falcons.
The next one is the Chargers at the Falcons. I got the Chargers here. Normally when a good team, and I think the Chargers are a very good team, when they get embarrassed by an inferior team, which I think the Ravens have been, and especially with the way that they got, with the way that they lost. Their starting running back, J.K. Dobbins, went down with an injury, and the offense became as slow as possible, and they had an opportunity, if Quentin Johnson didn't drop every single pass that was thrown to him in the fourth quarter, for them to bounce back, and I think they will, against a Falcons team and a Falcons defense that the personnel on paper is great. Actually, the Falcons have turned into the Chargers with Brandon Staley. On paper, they got a bunch of names. Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons, Matt Judon on defense. They look all great. A.J. Terrell. On paper, they look great. And then the defense has the worst pressure rate in the NFL. And they used to blitz one of the highest rates, but they just haven't been able to get to the quarterback, which is crazy. Herbert has had a tremendous season so far, and I think that will continue on this one. And against a bad Falcons defense, that'll really show it. Ladd McConkey. Now, this is where it might get a little bit tricky because J.K. Dobbins will miss some time, and Greg Roman loves to run the football. Look at his time with the Baltimore Ravens. Ladd McConkey, they'll probably need to go to the pass more, and he'll need to step up big time, and I think he will be the X factor for this Chiefs offense. He's had double-digit fantasy points in a number of games so far this season, and as of late, he needs to have been relied on. But they don't have much talent offensively, which is kind of crazy, but yeah, they don't really have much talent because if you look at the numbers, production-wise, Ladd McConkey has worse stats than T. Higgins, and Ladd McConkey is their most reliable receiver, and he's not as reliable as T. Higgins, who's a wide receiver too on the Cincinnati Bengals. I expect Justin Herbert to play damn near perfectly against a defense that has gotten exposed week after week after week. Give me the Chargers in only a 1.5 point spread. I'll take them to win 27-23 and cover the 1.5 point spread. Next one.
Seahawks at Jets.
Give me the Seahawks in this one. They shut down the Cardinals' offense last week. You had the Cardinals winning last week. I had the Seahawks. They were 1.5 point underdogs at home, which to me, that made no sense. Kyler Murray could do nothing. He put up 6 points. Good for him, I guess. The Jets are 21st in rush defense in the league. So give me Kenneth Walker. Give me Geno Smith to break out for a couple nice runs. The Jets are a reeling team. They're waving the white flag. We got Woody Johnson through reports saying that he probably doesn't want Rodgers back. Then you have Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show saying, well, I don't know if I'm going to come back next year. You have also other reports saying that the Jets want the season to be over already. I mean, if that isn't waving the white flag, I don't know what is. If people are just going to go down and refuse to play, the Jets are a reeling team. They just lost to Anthony Richardson in his comeback game. And on the final drive, it was perfect Aaron Rodgers play, where he needed a game-winning drive. And what did he do? Sack, conservative, sack. I mean, that's all he does. He loves to preserve his statistics, loves to preserve that touchdown to interception ratio. It's the only thing going for him now. It isn't getting to the playoffs anymore. It's not trying to win Super Bowls. All he has left is his arm talent and his touchdown to interception ratio. That's it. And so that's what he's preserving. The Seahawks defense did a tremendous job. Two defensive backs in Witherspoon and Reek Woolen did a tremendous job. They've been doing a tremendous job all season. I expect that to continue. Give me the Seahawks defense to shut down a lot of what the Jets could do. I have the Seahawks winning and covering the -1.5 point spread. They win 24-20. And the final pick of the Harvey Hot Hand for Week 13 is
49ers at Bills.
Give me the Bills here in this one. Brock Purdy still battling an injury, but has been practicing over the past 2 days. Trent Williams, though, I don't know if he practiced today. I couldn't find anything about him practicing along with Nick Bosa, so I'm assuming they did not practice the past 2 days. And Brock Purdy last year was winless when Trent Williams did not play 50% or more of the snaps or did not finish out a game. He went winless. If I'm not mistaken, they went 12-4. Yeah, 0-4 when Trent Williams either got hurt in a game or didn't play in a game or played less than 50% of the snaps. That's how, really, if we're talking about MVP, Trent Williams is the MVP of the San Francisco 49ers. Meanwhile, on the Bills side, they're on a 6-game winning streak and have had a nice balanced offense and a lockdown defense, which has taken the ball away in every single game this season. And they've actually had very few games where it's just one. Normally, it's much more than one. They've even had a couple of games where it's 3 or 4 turnovers in a single game. Nick Bosa, like I mentioned, hasn't practiced, and Fred Warner's been dealing with an ankle injury for 2/3 of the season so far. Josh Allen is pushing for his first MVP, which people could argue based on the numbers he should have gotten last year. That continues because guess what? I think just based on reputation alone, if Lamar Jackson goes up against the Eagles and has a game like he did against the Chargers and like he had maybe in some other games where he played good enough to win, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 130 passer rating, then he'll jump Josh Allen if Josh Allen loses in this game, which I do not expect him to do. I'll take Josh Allen to win and cover, minus 6.5 point spread. Bills win. I think if they go out and win like this, 31-21 or around it, a 10-point victory or more, I think that kind of, unless they completely crap the bed the rest of the season, lose every other game, which I don't see them doing, I think that this win will solidify Josh Allen as the MVP of this year because that would move them to 10-2. And if we have it going like I do and the Ravens losing this week, that moves the Ravens to 8-5. 3-loss difference. I can't have that happen. Give me the Buffalo Bills to win big here, cover a 6.5 point spread, and win 31-21. I feel really good about those picks, and those are my picks with Harvey Hot Hand. If you want to support the show, this is brought to you by Dr. Squatch. Go over to www.drsquatch.com/The Harvey Hour, and new customers who spend $30 or more get 3 free Fight Scrub bricks. That's a $24 value, absolutely free for new customers. Once again, use the link in the description or go to www.drsquatch.com/The Harvey Hour. New customers, $30 or more with your purchase. You get 3 free Fight Scrub bricks, $24 value, absolutely free. Thank you for supporting the show. And as always, we bring in the second part of the Harvey Hot Hand where you critique all of my picks and tell me which ones I should have changed.
Actually, I don't think I'd change any this week.
Really?
I can't see any that I would substitute that it would be any closer or would be any easier, I should say. The one I worry about here is the Bucs against the Panthers. I see Bryce Young maybe turning the corner a little bit. He's played well the past few weeks. He seems to be much more competitive out there. He seems to have much more confidence. And since the benching, he's been a different player. So, they took the Chiefs to overtime. No, they took them right down.
Right down to the wire. 30 seconds left.
30 seconds left. They lost on a field goal. The fans were into the game. It was. I see the Panthers maybe turning the corner a little bit here, but I do like the Buccaneers the rest of the way here with their Evans healthy and the way Baker Mayfield's playing. I think and their chances in their division, where it's kind of a weak division anyway. So I'm with you. I think the Buccaneers will win, but that's the one I see as being the closest here amongst this group. But good luck.
So just for posterity, so you're saying that the Bucs minus 5.5 could be an issue?
I think it could be.
So
yeah.
what? I'm not saying you would officially replace it. What game would you feel a little bit more confident in a team covering then?
Maybe the Texans.
Texans
Jaguars,
3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although the Texans' offensive line is terrible, and Stroud is suffering for it, but they're playing the Jaguars. It couldn't be much worse. They're 32 in the power rankings, so that would be the one that I would substitute.
Well, there you go. I think that does wrap it up for today's show. I apologize for the late start, technical difficulties with transferring the show over here. But Tuesday should be a great show. We're covering all of Week 13, which is a full slate of games. It should be very, very fascinating to talk about. Yes, we will be talking about Browns-Broncos. It'll be fun to debate that game, as well as potentially some of these other games, depending on some of the outcomes. I think Eagles-Ravens we'll definitely discuss, because that was a big discussion we had today, along with potentially 49ers-Bills, depending on how that game turns out. Who knows? There are a lot of games to talk about here, but for this episode, that'll be it. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We have been your hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, all of Week 13. Catch us right here on YouTube.
Night, Grandpa.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.